of Historical Belle, and today I am going to tell you about how I made my Outlander inspired dress. It was part of a challenge collab with Caroline D'Ambrosio Designs, and we did one last summer. And actually we were Secret Santas like the year before that, so it's just a fun continuation of us doing stuff together, and you know, it's fun and making friends on the internet. So last year we did one where we challenged each other to become different historical paintings. She challenged me to be the Lady of Shalott, and I gave her a Monet painting, which was a lady facing left with parasol. So be sure to check out those videos. I'll link them down below. They were super fun to make and like super creative. Oh, so much fun. But this year we both really liked the show Outlander, so we challenged each other to make different outfits from Outlander. So we sent each other different pictures, and it was so funny because we actually challenged each other to make dresses from the same episode without even planning on it. And she challenged me to make the dress that Claire wears to the gathering in season 1 episode 4, which is called, well, The Gathering. The moment she sent me this dress, I was so excited because it is a tartan dress. And the dress itself is the Fraser tartan. And then it has this really cool floral print for the stomacher and petticoat, which doesn't seem super 18th century to me. It seems like they took a little bit of license with it. So I wanted to make it a little bit more historically accurate. Just a little bit, Yo-Yo. Yo-Yo didn't like that. Yo-Yo wanted the screen version. Anyway, I made it and I changed it up a little bit, so I want to show you my design process.
The first step in my design process is research. I very much enjoy the research process. And to start off this process, I am going to start with Claire's gown, the gown I was challenged to make. So this costume, really, I love the tartan. That's the Fraser tartan from the best that I can tell. And then it has this floral print. Now, floral prints were common in the 18th century, but this one looks a little different. This one looks like they took some liberties with the exact design. Anywho, I found these wonderful pictures just detailing the dress. And from these pictures, I was able to tell that this is an English gown, or robe à la anglaise, which has a very fitted back, and it closes in the front with a stomacher and pins. Now I can tell by the style of the dress, but also because, well, we know when Outlander is set, that it is the 1740s in Scotland. So then I started wanting to look at actual portraits of people from Scotland in the 1740s, and especially those who are wearing tartan dresses. It's very rare to have a lady's tartan dress. Tartan was generally a men's kilt situation, or ladies would have, as you can see there, it would be draped over their shoulders or different things. It's very strange or rare to have a whole tartan dress, but of course, as you can see, it does exist. Tartan, of course, is a part of the Scottish national identity, and in the 1740s, it is part of the Jacobite movement, showing your political support and, well, for being a Jacobite, and also your Scottish national identity. Now, because tartans are very much part of a family thing, I didn't want to wear the Fraser tartan. I looked to see if I could find, well, my clan's tartan, but it was like $100 a yard if you wanted to get the real stuff. So this brings me to my next point. I have a Ko-fi now. If you would like to help me buy, really expensive tartan fabric, that would be lovely. Anyway, since that was like, $100 a yard, I was like, you know what? Let's see if I can find something a little cheaper that still, well, looks like my family's tartan. Sadly, I hunted high and low at many different fabric shops, and I found things that kind of looked close to it, but were not quite right or the right scale. So I ended up going with, well, you know what? Maybe I won't try my family's tartan anymore. I'll look for my fiance's family's tartan, and because the Campbell tartan I could find much easier, and I went with that. So I got this tartan that looks very close to the Campbell tartan. It looks a little bit like my family's tartan, but it's okay. I'm going to be part of his family soon anyway. So I use these two patterns to kind of help create what I want, but I still, modified it rather a bit. As we know, I like to take bits and pieces from different patterns. This dress actually had 3 different patterns that I pulled from, as well as some of my own kind of draping design to create, what this dress is going to end up looking like at the end of this video. I also used the American Duchess Guide to 18th Century Dressmaking because chapter 2 is all about the English gown in the 1740s, which was very helpful while making an English gown that I wanted to set in the 1740s. I also used the American Duchess. You could see the pattern there a little bit in the beginning of this video for the Isabella MacTavish Fraser wedding dress, which they did a whole documentary process on, and it was super cool. I'll link that below as well. But that was it was a tartan dress. That one's from the 1780s, but it has a lot of 1740s old-fashioned features, so I thought that was cool. Now here you'll see I am kind of tweaking the pattern that I had. So the pattern that I had while doing this dress, it called for like a separate shoulder piece, but in the pictures of Claire's dress, it didn't show that there was a seam there. And then I was looking at the English gown chapter in the dressmaking guide, and it shows that you cut it all in one piece for the 1740s. So that's what I did, and I just kind of, pushed the pattern pieces together and then cut it out as one piece, because it seems like that's what you're supposed to do in the 1740s, and then in the later 1700s that becomes its own separate piece. Cutting out this fabric is probably some of the hardest and most precise cutting I've ever had to do, because I was trying to match patterns so bad because it's a tartan, so I wanted to make sure it doesn't, if it looks a little off, it's going to be very noticeable. So trying to make sure I line everything up just so before I cut it was very important to me, and it took a while. So here I am cutting out the sleeves, and look at that. Look how precise those sleeves match. Yes, success. So like I said, I modified the front actually quite a bit, because I wanted to have that whole one piece in the bodice front, but the pattern I had closed in the front, because over time the English gown eventually did close in the front without it didn't have a stomacher, it just had the 2 bodice pieces meet in the middle. But this is the 1740s, so I folded it under using the other American Duchess pattern I had, which I think they detail in chapter 3. It's the sack gown, which is more of a 1760s, 1770s dress, but they go into it in chapter 3 in the dressmaking guide. But I have the pattern that was by Simplicity as well, because I like to have pattern pieces, because cutting out my own pattern scares me, and I just like to have the safety net of a paper pattern. Again, I had to make sure that the fabric, when I laid it out, was folded to perfection. I had to make sure when I folded the fabric that every single pleat and plaid lined up. Oh, and here I'm doing some more fun bendy twisty things with the pattern to make it, how I actually want it to be. Which I was a little scared about, because I don't make mock-ups. I don't really like making mock-ups. I tried to make a mock-up once, and I just found it to be incredibly boring, and I didn't really change anything after doing the mock-up. And therefore, I'm not planning on ever making a mock-up again. I mean, maybe. I might make a mock-up. I won't say never. I should never say never. But I didn't necessarily enjoy the process. I just kind of like going at it and winging it. And, if something bad happens, I'll fix it. And that's just kind of what I do. So, yeah. But here I am laying out it was a very interesting back piece pattern that they have here. So, a stylish feature of English gowns in the 1740s was the pleated back. So you can kind of see there where the pleat marks are going to be. And then it's cut all as one piece. So it's a lot of just like one large pieces. They were not into like a bunch of little pieces. It's one large one, so you just kind of, well, sew together. So the back, piece is very long. It starts all the way at the top and goes to the bottom, and then you just like pleat the top part there, and then goes around on the gown, and then there's the whole other petticoat, but that's separate. So for the stomacher and the petticoat, I decided to make the petticoat out of the same tartan material that I found, but I wanted the stomacher to reflect more what the costume looked like. So I got this brown, I think it's wool. Again, this came from my basement. It feels like wool, so I'm pretty sure it's wool. For the fabric I got, I actually used a cotton flannel. It's not actual wool, but it has the feel of a lightweight wool. So it's not like perfect, authentic. I'm sure the $100 yard tartan would have been, the most accurate that I could get to or whatever. But, budget. So I was using this kind of brown wool from my basement to be the stomacher, and then of course it's just a plain brown wool, so I want to have a floral design on it that I can embroider, because I have an embroidery machine and I just feel like I need to use it in every project because it makes me really happy, because I think it's just so fun. Now, trying to design the floral stomacher was a little bit of a challenge. So as you can see here, I'm just like throwing all of the floral designs that I can really at the screen, and it wasn't working super great. As you can see, it looks a bit busy, it's a bit too much, it doesn't look really 18th century-y. Yeah, that could have worked, but then I was like, no. My favorite was the middle design there, and I just added another one of. And I was then trying to get like the little wispy flowers to settle somewhere around it, because I thought it'd be fun to have a bit more. But then I decided, you know what, less is more. I'm a simple elegance kind of gal, and this looks very 18th century to me. The design that is the 3 repeating there. Of course, I'm going to do it in different colors. I decided that I'm going to do it in a green, blue, and red, which is the colors of my family tartan. And also green and blue are the colors in the Campbell family tartan. Therefore, it kind of brings both of them together in a way. I actually didn't really think about that until I'm talking to y'all now. I just thought the colors looked nice, and they were ones I had, and I thought they went well. But it really does bring it together, and it's the colors of, well, my family's tartan and his. I love to watch my embroidery machine go. I think it's so relaxing and just interesting, and I feel like I have to do more, but I really don't. You just have to thread the machine and then it just does things. I got a program to create my own embroidery designs. I have not gotten to a point where I feel confident in doing complicated things or really simple things even, to be quite honest. So right now I'm still using preset designs. So all of the designs that you've seen me use my embroidery machine for, they've been preset designs that just come with the machine. One day I would love to figure out how to digitize my own patterns, but that day has not come yet. Now here you can see the blue flowers have been added and the red flowers are going on the green vines. I used this pattern when I made my 18th century style pocket, and I just really love it. Something about it just really speaks 18th century to me. It looks like I looked at a lot of stomachers from the 1740s on Pinterest while kind of trying to decide what the design should be, and it was a lot of floral, not necessarily a lot of repeating patterns. A lot of it kind of seemed more, I don't want to say random, because everything looked like it was very much planned, but a little more whimsical, we'll say. And of course I have so many kitty helpers with this project. They're so cute and they think they're being helpful and they just want to hang out with me, and I love it when they want to hang out with me. And they are some of the best fabric weights around. So, tore the backing off. I like to use the tearaway backing for my embroidery projects. So I tore that all away, cut out the stomacher piece. For the pattern that I was just using for the stomacher piece, that came from the sack gown pattern from American Duchess it's from Simplicity, but it's by American Duchess. I then cut out the lining for my bodice pieces and sleeves. This is a muslin. Would they have used muslin? No. This would have probably been linen if we were in the 18th century. But we're not. This is more of a costume, cosplay than a 18th century reproduction, even though I like to think that this is perhaps historically adequate. Not accurate, but adequate. It's very much in the shape. It has some of the same weight of the fabric, and the muslin, acts like a light linen. The cotton flannel kind of acts as a light wool. It's a tartan. It's in the right style, so I think it's adequate. And here I am pleating those back pleats that were so popular in the 1740s. Hi, Yo-Yo! Yep, you like the back pleats? I do too. I think they're really cool. So now that the back is together, and look at those pleats, I'm so happy about pattern matching, y'all. You don't even know. I was very concerned with the back pleats that, you know, they're going to be sewn together, they're going to be pleated together, they need to look like mirror images of each other, and I do believe that they do. So here I am attaching the bodice pieces, the other two sides really, to the back. I then wanted to press my back seams open, making sure that they are laying really nice and flat before I install the lining. So here is my lining. You can tell this back piece is not pleated. It's actually like, there's a different one that you do for the lining. The lining doesn't need to be pleated. It's the lining. So you just, the way I did it, I think there was a pattern piece for it, but I just took the pleated back piece and just laid that out on the muslin and then pinned around it and cut so that it fit exactly. But before I put the lining onto the pretty tartan fabric, I'm actually going to go ahead and put some boning into the dress, and I'm going to sew it onto the lining layer before it goes and gets attached to the tartan. It's really kind of funny. The only piece of this dress that I hand sewed was this boning into the front of the dress, which no one will ever see except for like a little bit of pricks in the lining in the front, but no one really is ever going to see that except you, dear viewer. But of course, if this was a true reproduction of an 18th century dress, everything would be hand sewn, and different stitches for different parts of the dress. There's a whole thing. Nothing would be done by machine because the machines didn't exist. Sewing machines were not invented until the 1840s, and then they did not make their way into most American households until the 1860s or 1870s. And then it was, you know, if you could afford one. Still, they were still rather expensive, and they didn't, you know, come down in price until later, until the early 1900s. So now that I put the boning in, now it's time to attach the lining to the fabric. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to pin all the way around. I'm going to leave the little section in the back open, and that's how I'm going to turn it right side out, because I just made these pretty pleats in the back, and the back is supposed to just fall nicely. There's not supposed to be a line there, so I think it's the perfect place to leave open to turn inside out. And then the lining right in the center back there is just not going to attach to anything, and it's just going to kind of hang but with everything else attached around it, it's going to be perfectly fine. Now that I got everything turned right side out, I'm going to attach the shoulders to the back and create an armhole in the process. Now that the bodice is in a good place, I am going to pleat the skirt part of the robe, the skirt part of the gown, and of course I have a kitty helper because who can sew without a cat? Certainly not I. I must be supervised by the feline. So here I am. I have, of course, the back is pleated, and then it's directional pleat, so it's pleats facing out, which I am then continuing throughout the gown part of the skirt. Yay, it's really starting to take shape and it kind of looks like an actual wearable dress. So you can see the directional pleating on the skirts, the boning in the bodice. It just needs sleeves, a stomacher. Well, we have the stomacher, I just, can't really pin it to this at the moment. It just needs some sleeves and then the petticoat. And, well, put that stomacher, that's done in the middle. The next part that I was going to tackle then was the sleeve. So here I am going to put the lining into the sleeve, sew it around the bottom part. That way I can turn it right side out and then set the sleeves. Setting sleeves when they're not gathered for me is always really hard. Thankfully these went kind of easier. It didn't match completely and you kind of ended up just like forcing the fabric into kind of a pleated situation around where it didn't exactly want to lay flat, but you know what, that's okay. It just did not want to cooperate exactly. Not only must I be supervised, but the dress also must be guarded. Yay, it has sleeves! The sleeves made it go from looking like a Tudor kirtle almost to making it actually look like an 18th century dress, which I thought it was really interesting to see the two shapes, or to be reminded of the shape with, well, the 18th century dress kind of reminding me, well, like, the foundational parts of it are still there. It still kind of does look like a kirtle, but then it has, evolved over the centuries to be what we think of as an 18th century dress. So the last thing that I need to do is make the petticoat and, of course, the waistband for the petticoat. So here I am cutting out the waistband for the petticoat, and I had already pleated the whole petticoat, and now I'm just going to, make sure that this is the right width and the right length. I don't have a pattern for this, I just kind of made it up. I always definitely like to iron my waistbands. They need to be super crisp, and it's not something that you can go back and really iron as well after you put a bunch of fabric in the waistband. So it's, because a lot of times I like to just kind of do my sewing after. I'm just like, I'll just give everything a good press at the end. But some things you just can't press as well at the end, and you need to make sure that you do that, before you sew it. I also like to just move my pins, so I don't, some people will just like sew after pleating and then put the waistband on. I prefer to just move a lot of pins. I rather pin twice and then just sew once. And then I am going to use some more of this cording for my ties so that the petticoat can tie on to, well, me. And then I'm going to pin the two halves of the petticoat together and hem it and hem the dress, and then I thought, yay, I'm done! But then I realized that I forgot one very important accessory that I wanted to do for the dress, and that is the dress had to have cuffs, because Claire's dress had cuffs. The Isabella MacTavish Fraser dress has cuffs, which was very 1840s thing. Sorry, 1740s thing, excuse me. It's a very 1740s thing to do. It's very stylish for that time period, which is weird that it's on the wedding gown because it seems to be made from the 1780s. So it was a very outdated thing, but Claire's dress had them for her gathering dress, and I thought they were a really cool style thing to add that makes it very mid 1700s, and I just really wanted to do that. So I saw on the pattern that American Duchess put out about the wedding dress, they kind of had like a gridded pattern. So this is the one thing that I did that I took from the gridded pattern and translated it into fabric. I think I did it a little bit differently than they said to do it because I don't like to follow other people's directions apparently, but it still worked. They had more winged cuffs and mine are not necessarily winged. Mine just fit all the way around the arm of the sleeve, because that's just what ended up happening. So I pleated the cuffs, and then I sewed down the pleats, and then I pinned and now am currently sewing on the cuffs to the ends of the sleeve. And then it's done! I'm really excited about the whole look of this dress. I've not done something like this before necessarily. This is the first English gown that I've made. It's the first like mid 1700s dress that I've made. So I thought I had a lot of fun with it. And I enjoy engaging with my Scottish heritage as well through this. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Be sure to check out Caroline D'Ambrosio Designs channel. It's awesome, and I can't wait to see what she has done with the challenge that I have given her. We put our videos out at the same time, so I know it's up. Go watch it.